Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and in this video what I'm going to do is just show you how to make like a sort of mini class-based React. And I don't mean like class-based components, but just being able to create like a class that creates stateful UI logic. Just kind of see the power of what you can do with just plain vanilla JavaScript if you wanted to. So let's see here. Let's do this. Let's create a index.html file. And then I am going to create a couple new files. So I'll just actually open up the terminal. I'm going to touch a file we'll call mini react.js, and then our app.js for like our app logic. Okay, and then I'm going to just set up my index.html file. Boop. Okay, put our script tags in there. Script source. First, I want to have the mini React loaded up. Okay, and I'll put a defer tag so that way it loads up before my DOM loads. And same thing for my app.js. So I can just copy that. And then here I'm going to just have a div, and then we'll just create like a arbitrary attribute. We'll call it, our target, meaning like mini React target or whatever. Okay, and we'll just call this app. Okay. Cool. And there we go. Okay. So first I want to do is just create this like little mini React class. So I'm going to create a class, and we'll call it mini React. And the reason I'm calling it mini React, because you'll see like it's going to be like React where we have state that renders, and then whenever that state changes, it'll re-render the UI in a very sort of React-y way where you use like a set state function and all this stuff. So class. Now here's the thing. When we first create this class, we need to have a constructor. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to expect that this constructor is going to receive an configuration object that configures this class. Okay, I always like to have a config object instead of like a whole bunch of different arguments, because then if I need to add more arguments in the future, I don't have to really refactor this much, because an object can have as many properties as it wants. So and then plus people don't have to worry about like positioning of like what order they put their arguments in. They just put properties by the right keys in an object and pass that object into the constructor. I find that to be sort of very clean. Okay, so first thing I want to do is actually grab the element that this thing's going to bind itself to. So we're going to say this dot element equals document dot query selector. Okay, and what do we call it? Called it our target. Okay, so we are going to sit there and say that our object should have a property. So we're going to use backticks. So it should have a so basically we're targeting the thing that has an attribute of our target equals. Okay, and then we'll use some quotation marks there. But inside here we're going to use interpolation to inject. Actually, we don't even necessarily need to do that. We just interpolate, we'll say config.target. So we're going to expect that a string will be passed in through the config object that specifies like app, like it'll be worth app, okay? Or whatever the target is. Cool. Okay, and then we're going to have this dot state. Okay, which will equal config dot initial state. Okay, and for some reason, if that is null, we will set up a default value of just an empty object. Cool. And then we're also going to have a render function. So we'll say this dot render equals config dot render. So we're going to expect that you pass in a function, and then we will call that function initially once. Okay, and then we're gonna create a build method. Okay, we're just going to take in the element. Okay, which will take so essentially what we're going to do is we're going to pass in this dot build. We're going to invoke build at construction, and we're going to pass it this. Okay. And then we're going to build. We'll then make a call to this dot. Wait, do I need to do all that? This dot render. Yeah, I do. Okay, because I want to do this. This dot element dot inner HTML equals the result of this dot render, to which we pass the state. Okay. And as a secondary argument, we can pass this in case we want to get like attributes, props, etc. Okay. Cool. So that's basically that build function. That's what that's going to do. So this is just the initial build when the component is first rendered. And actually these should be element. Actually, I don't even really need this. I'm not using that. So that's fine. Okay. And then we're going to have a set state function, which will take in the new state. And then what it'll do is that if the new state does not equal the existing state, so they're two different things, then what will happen is that this dot state will equal the new state, and it will call this dot build. Okay, and pass, and that's that. Cool. Cool. Okay, that works for me. Okay, let me just think here. Anything I want to add there? So again, basically, it's going to grab the element, grab the state from the config, the render function, and that should be it. So let's just try it out. Let's just do a simple version of this. So I'm going to go to my app.js, because now this class should exist, because the idea is that this mini React runs first, because again, that script tag is there first, then it's going to run my app.js. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say new mini React, and then we pass in the config object. And essentially there's the target, which should be app. Then we're going to have the initial state, which will just be hello. Hello world. And then we're going to have our render function, which is a function that takes in the state and the element and returns a thing. Okay, let me put some commas here. Okay, and basically what it should return a template string. So we'll sit there and say it's going to return an h1 with a hello. We're going to inject state.hello inside of it, because again, that's what the state is. Okay, cool. So let's see if that works. Let's run this in live server. So I should see hello world on the screen if this all works. Right now I'm seeing undefined. Okay, I'm seeing undefined. Okay, so apparently state does not equal hello currently. So let's just organize my screen a little bit. Okay. Open up DevTools. because what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to troubleshoot this as console log state. Okay, and state's still an empty object. Okay, so let's see here why, because this is property is called state. So if I go back to my mini React, this dot state, you should equal, oh, it's supposed to be called initial state. My bad. Initial state. And see, now it works. See, world. I get an H1 that says world. Cool. So that works. Now let's see what happens if I try to, let's see here. I want to modify this so that we can actually like add events to it, or you can actually just add, show that it's reactive. So we'll do is we'll add a button. Okay. So I'm going to add a button down here. Click me. Now if I go back to my app.js, I want to save this mini React. Const app equals do mini React. And basically what I want to do is I want to say document.query selector. I'm going to select the button and say, hey, when we click this button. Now again, this is not completely encapsulated like React. Okay, usually in React, everything is kind of built in within the component. But again, I'm just trying to show you sort of like the early stages. I could build it out, but I don't want to make this video too long. So I'm going to say the button, give the event listener a button, or an event listener to the button. So when you click on the button, the following function runs. And all this function is going to do is we're going to say that app.setState will run, but instead we're going to pass in a new object, and the hello property is now going to say goodbye instead of hello world. Okay, so now see here. If this works, when I click me, this is going to change the state. Do that set state function. If we go back to our mini React thing here, set state's going to see if, hey, does that equal our existing state? If not, it's going to update the state and then rebuild the UI. That's essentially what it's going to do. So, and it works. Okay, so basically we did it. Okay, and then I can make more of these. I can be like, okay, let me make another one of these. So let's say I want to make another div, and this div is going to have a different R target of cheese. Okay, I can then go over here. I mean, you have the app.js and create another instance. So const cheese equals another new mini React. And then again, I just pass it the object. So this is actually a little bit like somewhere between Vue and React. Target cheese, and then the initial state, we'll call it something else. We'll say an object called cheese. The cheese is Gouda, or an object that basically has the property of cheese that equals Gouda. Then we pass it a render function. And in the render function, we're going to say, again, it receives the state and the element itself. And what I want to do is return. This time we'll return a h2, and then we'll inject state.cheese inside of it. Let's see, by basically structuring it this way, we also get rid of having to use that word this, because render will be directly past the state. Okay, and it works. See, there's the Gouda thing. Okay, and I can make this as complicated as I want. So if I wanted to like maybe add some styling, I could just put a style tag in here. So style tag. We'll just say, hey, in H2, we'll make say, hey, the color is red for an H2. And there, see, like the H2's changed. So I can essentially, like, again, encapsulate that section of my UI in here. Always the only annoying thing about like when you try to do it inside of a template literal like this is you don't get quite the same syntax highlighting, but it's still a neat way of doing things. Okay, so this all works. Yeah. Now let's see if I can create a button that works inside of here. So let's see here. If I create a button inside of the template, hello. And let's see here. Can I do an on click event in here and say cheese dot set state, and then we pass in an object where now the cheese equals where the cheese is now Munster. So if I put that in the template, would it work the way I think it would work? Let's find out. So I click hello. Nope. Let's see here. Unexpected end of input index.html53. So let's see here, because it's on click equals, oh, because I used double quotes here. So let's use single quotes and see if that makes it better. Oh, and then it works. Yep, see, it works. So I can just put the on click in there. I don't have to do anything fancy. And because I saved this instance in cheese, I can refer to it that way. So that works pretty well. Okay, so you can see like you can create like declarative UI pretty quickly. Now again, this doesn't have necessarily like a lot of the different like, doesn't have the virtual DOM and different optimizations. So if you try to create like a taxonomy of components or these instances, it gets a little bit more complicated. And there's no props currently, but that can be pretty easily added. I've done props before, but yeah, just to show you, like you can create like a little sort of mini version of React pretty quickly. Okay, all we did is we created a class, and the class binds itself to a DOM element based on that, and all it's doing is just changing the inner HTML of that element every time that build function runs, which triggers the render function, which is given to us. Yeah, cool. So just kind of wanted to show you that. Hopefully that kind of gets your brain thinking about like how React works a little bit more in depth, and showing, you know, how much you can just do with just plain old JavaScript. So I'll see y'all later. Let me stop this. And again, make sure to head over to the Dev Nursery and alexmercedcoder.com, subscribe to the channel, and join the Slack community and Discord community over there at alexmercedcoder.com and devnursery.com. Ciao.